I, 31 male, am married to my wife Ella, 31. We have 3 children together. Our son is pre-tween and our daughters are a toddler and 1 year older. A few months ago we learned Ella's sister had a child and that her child had been removed from the home. Ella was contacted about taking in her nephew, Dex, who is the same age as our son. Despite the shock and our not knowing Dex, we chose to bring him into our home to give him the life Ella and her sister didn't have. I never expected us taking my nephew in to be a problem, but my family was vocal about us not taking in Dex. This is where I should mention I'm black and my wife is white. Our kids together are dark skinned like me. Dex is white like my wife. Ella's sister, Dex's mom, was involved in illegal activities contributing to Dex's removal. My family acted as though Dex was somehow responsible and doomed, and they told me it was selfish to bring him into a house with my children, who will always get the blame for his actions. I was angry. Dex is young. Our kids love him and he's already bonded well with them. He's little, but they treat him like a criminal. They refused to include him in the family. They told me he would not be welcome at family events, so I chose to cut my family out of my life. I told them I would not turn my back on a child who has nobody else and has done nothing to deserve abandonment. One of my nephews is a teen who got in touch with me recently to talk. He said he missed his cousins and me and hated that we didn't see each other. I told him I missed him too. I explained that adult issues were complicated sometimes and hopefully we could see each other soon. He told me I could see them if I kicked Dex out, we could see each other again, and that Dex is trouble, that he doesn't deserve to tear our family apart. I told him Dex is a child who has nobody else. He told me he was going to be the reason my kids ended up in jail and maybe even me too. I told him it was ridiculous. He told me I was dumb and it was embarrassing to watch. He then said that Dex doesn't matter, etc. That's when I snapped. I told him I was ashamed of how he was talking about an innocent kid, and I was just as ashamed of the rest of the family who would put so much on a young child. I told him I would not dump Dex for them, which only added to how ashamed I was to have them repeatedly request that. My nephew ended the call, and straight after I got a message from my sister that I had no right to talk to her child that way. Then the rest of the family joined in, and I can't stop asking myself if it was wrong to say this to my nephew, who is still a kid. I asked myself if ending the call would have been better because dumping on a kid is perhaps not my finest moment. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot, of course. I can't blame your nephew because technically he's a child, but clearly he's getting his information from his mother. If anyone in that family reaches out again, I would firmly but calmly say, Dex is my child. If you can't open your heart to an abandoned little kid, I don't want you in my life. Funny how your family thinks that grown adults calling a little child all kinds of nasty names and criminalizing him for no reason is okay, but you telling a teen that you're ashamed of him is outrageous. Cut them all out of your life for good. And thank you to you and your wife for taking Dex in. You're doing a wonderful thing, and I could only wish all children who lack a loving home with their parents would be as lucky as him to have relatives step in. It sounds like someone put your nephew up to calling you and saying that, trying to guilt you into doing what they wanted. Go full no contact and block the family on everything. They're just going to keep pulling stunts like this. Good Lord, I can't imagine harboring so much hatred for a freaking child. I'm sorry, but a teenager is plenty old enough not to be acting like a judgmental idiot, especially about a child. His family may have brainwashed him, but he's old enough to know better. Maybe a little harsh, but he learned he couldn't push those particular buttons without getting the consequence. So you gave him the chance to back off and stop spouting the family party line, and he doubled down. Good on you for protecting Dex. My daughter, 18, graduated high school, and I hung a photo of her graduation party on the living room wall. She wants to go to a community college and will live with me and her stepdad. My husband recently earned his master's degree, and yesterday he showed me his graduation photo that he framed and prepared to hang. I asked where we would hang it, and he said in the living room. I said, great, right next to Amy's graduation photo then. He said not next to it, but instead of it. I was puzzled. I asked why, and he said that he didn't feel it was right to have his graduation photo, a master's degree, be hung next to a high school graduation photo, a high school degree. He said that both photos have different weight and value, and suggested I take my daughter's photo down and hang his instead. I was fuming because he refused to let her photo hang anywhere near his, and he had claimed the entire wall. I refused and said this photo had been here for months, and my daughter deserves to have it on display for encouragement. He got upset and said that I was making a big deal and could instead use the hallway wall or something, but I refused. We argued about it, and he insisted on having her graduation photo be taken down and not hung on the same wall as his due to the difference in degree value and weight. Also, he thought a high school photo wasn't hang-on-wall worthy and called me inconsiderate of his feelings. Finally, he said it was disrespectful to him and his efforts and said that choosing this hill to die on was ridiculous. Am I the idiot for choosing this hill to die on? Not the idiot. I'd hang it right over the toilet where his attitude belongs, so every time he goes, he can be reminded of how much of a pompous idiot he is. I also have a master's degree. I would never be so big-headed to do something like that. Wow, has his masculinity always been this fragile? How old is this man, and why does he think he needs to compete with a teenager? Why is he jealous? This is so strange. Is he also a teenager who excelled so much that he earned his master's at 18? Even if that was the case, he doesn't get to remove your daughter's photo to replace it with his. He sounds like a total idiot. If you get a PhD, will you hang his master's photo in the closet or the basement? Of course, he'd pitch a giant fit, and rightly so. Tell your husband that since he got his big boy master's degree, it's time to grow up and recognize that other people have milestones in their lives too, and that the weight and value of such things are not for him to determine. Something that, most people who have graduated elementary school have learned. Your husband just told you your daughter and her accomplishments are meaningless to him, and that she is so beneath him she is not worthy of sharing wall space with his own. These are massive red flags. However, I will bet that this is not the first red flag. Hang up a copy of a divorce application next to his photo. I, 21 female, celebrated my birthday this past Saturday. My parents, 52 female, 53 male, insisted, as they do every year, that they take me out for dinner. They do the same for my brother, teen. The general idea is that on my birthday I pick the place we go and I get to eat whatever I want, which I assume isn't out of the ordinary, but it's important later. There's never been a problem with mine or my brother's birthday dinners until 2 days ago when I picked a local chain restaurant for my birthday dinner. It's pretty nice but not over the top, and they had a cocktail on their menu I was looking forward to trying as part of my first drink. Everything was going smoothly until it was time to order our food, and I asked for a New York strip steak, cooked rare. My dad interrupted the waitress as she was asking what sides I wanted to say, "Are you sure you want that?" I said yes, and he said something about not liking blood. I didn't know what to say to that, so I sat there kind of awkwardly until he asked if I was going to finish ordering so they could order. I told the waitress what my sides would be, and then she continued around the table and got everyone else's orders. My dad asked me something about sticking with steak, and I said, "Yeah, it's my birthday," and that was until the food came. He started making faces while I was eating and ended up walking out after taking a few bites of his food, to smoke until I was done. He wouldn't come back in until Mom had told him the waitress took my plate away, and once he sat back down, he acted as if nothing had happened. I was so upset I didn't even want to eat the birthday dessert that was brought out for me. I just gave it to my brother and said I was full. After we left, my dad started ranting in the car about how bloody steaks are gross and he can't believe he sent me off to college to start eating crap like that. Then he asked if I eat raw chicken and pork and if I bite straight into eggs fresh from the fridge. My dad doesn't cook much at home, let alone steak, but when he does, he overcooks most of it. He's never made a steak that I haven't been able to refer to as cremated. I thought it was just a preference, as I've never had anything below medium well in front of him, but apparently it goes beyond that. I tried to talk to my mum about it last night and how it made me feel bad, but she told me that I should have just picked something else on the menu after Dad made his first comment and that I should have known better even if it was my birthday. I'm confused here. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Let me get this straight. He, a smoker, has one of the most disgusting habits to be around but can't stand to be near a rare steak. Does he have no self-awareness? Talk about dramatic as heck. Your dad has an unusual phobia or aversion, and it's kind of his responsibility to both disclose and manage his issue. Vaguely questioning you is not the same thing as disclosure. Instead of dealing with his issues, he projected negativity onto you and scolded you, and ruined your birthday. Honestly, the real monster is anyone eating steak past medium rare. OP, it's your responsibility to make sure no one ever subjects your poor infantile father to this again. Tell this story to every single person you know as a cautionary tale, asking them to take care never to eat a bloody steak in front of him, out of respect. Make sure all his work colleagues, drinking buddies, friends at his house of worship, all of his relatives and in-laws, etc. know this, so they can treat him with the deference and respect he needs. You're not telling them to humiliate him. Be very clear about that. You only want to be sure that he never, ever has to see a rare steak in person again. LMAO. I, 32 female, used to have a good relationship with my mother-in-law until I became pregnant last year. To preface, my mother-in-law is heavily invested in my partner's life as they are the firstborn child, grandchild, etc., and can do no wrong in her eyes. We had boundary issues in the past that I would usually shake off, because you can't pick your family, you know. But when we announced my pregnancy, it was like a light switch flipped, and she could suddenly see the daughter she never had coming into the world. She became involved in everything, from planning the shower to asking how doctor visits were, and trying to dictate how we would spend events. This amplified once my child was born, and my partner and I had asked for alone time to bond with our baby and for me to recover from birth. It was like I told her she would never see the baby instead of asking for time. Since then, our relationship has been cordial because I no longer trust her to respect the boundaries that I've set. We are now many months in, and she consistently refers to my child as her baby. I let it slide for a long time because I wanted to keep the peace, but after being told that she's telling my child, "We don't want mommy to pick up my baby, do we? My baby doesn't need to go home. My baby misses me and should see me more," something inside me snapped. I asked her to please refer to my child as her grandbaby, not her baby. She instantly broke down in tears and stated she didn't understand why it was a big deal because she allowed others to refer to her children that way. I reiterated that I was uncomfortable with it and would prefer her not to do it. As a side note, she is at our daycare multiple days a week, so another confrontation will likely happen again. So, am I the idiot for asking this? Not the idiot, but find new childcare ASAP. This is only going to get worse. You know she's teaching that baby to call her mama, right? Also, you have to worry about a potential grandparents' rights custody battle in certain states. The longer there is prolonged significant contact if things escalate. I think your core problem isn't with my baby versus my grandbaby. That's just a symptom. Your core problem is that your mother-in-law wants to be in control when an ordinary, reasonable woman would treasure her time with her grandchild while respecting the authority of the parents. She feels she has some control because she's providing your childcare. Unfortunately, she's not going to stop wanting control. So the only way to have her stop pushing for it is to reduce her leverage in your life. Your only option is to reduce or eliminate her access to your child. You're a parent now. It's 100% a good thing to set boundaries when it comes to your child because she's just that. Your child, not your mother-in-law's. What she's doing is not okay, and it's time to exercise your rights as your baby's mother and find a more appropriate care situation without the boundary crossing. This will only worsen as your child ages, so you might as well nip it in the bud now. Update 1. Am I the idiot for asking mother-in-law to refer to my baby as her grandbaby? I picked up my child tonight and my mother-in-law literally acted as if nothing had happened, but she kept referring to me as mommy and mama to my baby. This is something she never does, and it felt very pointed, like she was trying to make me feel crazy for confronting her. Like, am I crazy for thinking that, out of respect for my partner, I'd let him know about the confrontation so he wouldn't be blindsided by her? She's a big fan of multiple messages, and calls if she feels ignored. Much to my surprise, he sided with her and informed me that I should learn when to stay quiet and not purposely upset her because then he would have to listen to her complain. Now I'm worried she'll keep doing it because he's not going to support me on this issue. You've got a husband problem on top of the mother-in-law problem. She's a boundary stomper, and he's used to allowing it because she makes it a living nightmare when she doesn't get her way. You're really going to need him on your side if you don't want her stomping all over you for the rest of your married life. Have this conversation with him ASAP. I'd be telling my partner that his own lack of boundaries with his mother is his problem, but you're not obligated to be a doormat. I hope you finally realize where you stand now. Second place to his mommy. If you don't put your foot down and force your husband to grow a spine and stand up for his family, you and your child, mother-in-law will always have more say in your own family than you. Update 2. Am I the idiot for asking mother-in-law to refer to my baby as her grandbaby? My partner and I had a massive blowout over this issue after mother-in-law called him crying. As I mentioned before, I'm usually laid back, but today I had the time to discuss the issue and the general disrespect I feel from mother-in-law. I'm not one to give ultimatums, but I feel like I've been backed into a corner and my only way out is to fight back. I inform my partner that I'm willing to end our relationship today if they are unwilling to back me against mother-in-law on this issue and any issue that comes after that, and that I will not be the third parent to a child that was literally cut out of my body. We went over nearly every disrespectful thing that mother-in-law has said to my face and behind my back to help my partner understand why this is such an issue. I also brought up the fact that my partner's own brother was willing to have my back on this issue, but they weren't. I think that was the real kick in the pants that they needed to see that I was not blowing this issue out of proportion. We have agreed that we will be a united front to mother-in-law and that any issues will be discussed with her together, because I feel she's turned the situation to make me into the bad guy. Partner said he understood where I was coming from, but this was only after I had a full-blown meltdown. Not usually my style, but also very effective. I informed my partner that I would not have this conversation again, and if I felt unsupported, then I would be leaving that day because I would rather be single and happy instead of being in a relationship with 3 people. Also, my baby will be in daycare no later than her first birthday. This is something my partner and I have agreed on, not only for separation from mother-in-law but also proper socializing. I'm hopeful that this will get better now that we duked it out, but I'm also concurrently getting my ducks in a row just in case. Luckily, our state does not recognize grandparents' rights other than 2 hours visit every 90 days to all who mention grandparents' rights. Thank you for all the comments and info. I felt inspired by the support to have this fight. I hate that it was such a big fight, but God, I feel so much better getting it out there.